Hey everyone, in keeping with the retro repairs from the iPhone 3GS, I have broken out the iPad 1. This is the original iPad 3G, and it is the one that had the bowed back on there to fit the battery and everything else. They hadn't figured out the whole flat thing yet. This one I've gone ahead and opened up a little bit already, just because they are a bit trickier than the newer ones. They have a row of plastic snaps on the side, on the right side here, and then on this side are metal snaps as well as the bottom and top. You'll notice that this one has no camera on the front or the back. This was before they figured that iPads would be good for cameras and photo enthusiasts for some unknown reason. So I've already popped this screen off. I'm just going to lift it out of the frame here, and I've already unclipped some of the flexes underneath. Turn this bad boy over so you can see what's underneath. We've got two flexes that meet in the middle there. That's going to be for our digitizer connection right there. We've also got a connection right here for our LCD. The LCD is actually held into the frame of the digitizer on this one, as opposed to newer models where the LCD is held into the frame of the iPad and the digitizer is entirely a separate unit. This one also has antenna wires that run from it, as well as our classic home button with two gold connections. These two have been brought to the middle, whereas the newer ones are on the outside, and then the home button went to a flex entirely. We've also got a flex connection right here, a little Lego style. That's going to go up to the proximity sensor. The top, well, I suppose it's not really a proximity sensor on the iPad original. It's more an ambient light sensor to help with automatic screen brightness, which was a hot feature back then. So let's take a look at the inside. This one looks a little dirty. It's probably from old age, and it no longer turns on because the battery inside is completely shot. You can tell by the texture of the battery that they are bumpy and swollen and just terrible overall. What I've done is I've gone ahead and removed these shields from either side here. Interestingly enough, these are actually two separate boards up at the top. This one is a smaller board right here, and it actually connects via these two pin connections right there. Just kind of plugs in. Over here, we've got the main brain of the whole unit. It's got the A4 processor chip. We've got two Samsung chips for our internal storage. We've got a broadband chip over there. This one, being the 3G model, also has a few additional chips and antennas. Over on the other side, we've got some power boosting chips to boost power output for that larger screen, and a few other miscellaneous networking, radios, whatnot. A couple resistors down there. The charge port is interestingly a very, very long flex connection that goes from the top of the board all the way down to the very bottom of the charge port, which is a 30-pin connection, old style. Down at the bottom, you'll also see they've got another Wi-Fi antenna radio right there. This one gets moved over to this side on the iPad 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Air 1, Air 2, 3. Yeah. So pretty much any other iPad is going to have a Wi-Fi antenna on this side, and sometimes both sides. This one's got a SIM tray that's built in, and you can't really tell from the camera angle, but it's actually angled diagonally down. So when you plug that in, it doesn't go straight in, it goes more at an angle and slopes down with the frame of the device. Which is kind of an interesting design. These are the two flex connections for the digitizer to plug in at the very top. We've also got the headphone jack on its own separate connection. Over here we've got some very old school style power and volume connection buttons, just a single wire running out into a bundle that then gets plugged into the main board right there. The power button is reinforced by the steel bracket. I'm sorry, it's probably aluminum. Same with these. However, the board is kind of exposed on the back here, so it is possible to damage these a little bit more than it is this guy right here, though it can definitely still get crushed. We can see that the LCD is actually an extension cable, and the LCD connector you can either unplug from the board itself or from the LCD on the back side, though it is taped down and kind of glued with this messiness in there. And more or less that is it, guys. That is the iPad original. I should show that down here. These two black panels are actually speaker modules. Those are going to be your loudspeakers for when you're jamming the music on your iPad with all 16 gigabytes of storage. So that is the original iPad. I'm going to go ahead and reconnect everything onto it, reassemble this one, and for the sake of retro tech, maybe one day replace the battery in there. But honestly, it's just a cool little piece to have on the shelf as it is, even with a dead battery. They are a little bit tricky to plug in based on how the connections are laid out on the inside. See that we've got to kind of sandwich things together. And honestly, I don't need to do all this, being that this is going to be a shelf piece. I don't really need to reassemble this so that it's in working condition, but it always fits together better if you do, and it looks pretty neat when you go back to open it up. Plug that little Lego connector in. I'm going to ignore the antenna, but I am going to plug back in that LCD connector if I'm able to. It's in a very bad angle for this thing. That latched into there. Alright. And now, like I said, I'm ignoring that antenna connection. I'm going to line this up with its plastic brackets so it can slide into the right side of the frame. Then I will push down the rest of it so that it all snaps into place. Now, if you're like me and most of your metal snaps broke along the way, don't worry, you can always use some strong double-sided adhesive tape. The red stuff is the best. Thanks everyone for joining me. I hope this was an interesting look at retro tech, and I'll see you all in the next video.